Welcome back to Sports Dump, Lewis County's only sports podcast. We're sponsored by Elam's Home Furnishing and Mattress Gallery, Global Septic, and AmeriCool Heating and Cooling. I'm Chronicle sports reporter Zach Martin, joined by Chronicle sports editor Dylan Wilhelm, and making her Sports Dump debut, Chronicle photographer Ridley Hudson.
I've infiltrated the Sports Dump.
About time. It's about time we have a respected photographer around here. Cody, we love you. Cody, we love you. All right, so it's been a while since we've recorded. Winter season is over. Yeah, spring season is started, but feels like it hasn't with the amount of rainouts and cancellations so far. So we're going to do a quick recap of state basketball out in Yakima and in Spokane. We'll start in Yakima because that's where WF West girls were. They finished in sixth place. Dylan was there, and Dylan, just kind of give us, some quick thoughts as we've been a week plus now since state basketball and, WF West season as a whole and, their performance in the Sun Dome.
Yeah, I mean, they finished sixth, which is technically the worst place that you can finish and still trophy. But at the end of the day, they still went and got a trophy. I'm sure that there are some, specifics in certain games that they would love to have back that they feel like they could have done better in. But at the end of the day, they still got a trophy. That was their ultimate goal this season. I think the seniors now leave with 2 trophies in 4 years. I think they finished 5th in 22, if I remember right. So there's still a lot to be proud of. They beat North Mason. They lost to Deer Park. They beat Bainbridge, and then they lost to Archbishop Murphy. It's just a matchup thing. I don't know what it is about Archbishop Murphy, but it felt like the regional round game again. Ava Marr and Brooke Blatchley, keep hit. I mean, when they hit as many threes as they do, WF West was actually up at halftime of the 4th-6th game. And I think Ava Marr hit like 3 straight threes out of half, and then they had like 5 threes in the first 3.5 minutes, and they go on this run, and that was pretty much the game. But again, when you're going to run into teams like that at state, and when they're doing that well and they're shooting the lights out like that, I don't really think there's anything you can hang your head about, especially when you're still getting a trophy at the end of the day. You're still bringing a trophy home, and that was the goal from day one. Julia Dalen was insane. So Dalen, I think it was the Bainbridge game, she had 9 blocks at halftime, okay, which had already tied the state tournament record, the 2A girls state tournament record. And it took her 60 seconds into the second half to get her 10th. And so they paused the game about, minute 45 in. And I got a buddy from up north who's there for like Linden Christian. He's just in awe because they don't have anybody like that that's blocking, several shots a game like that. And I'm kind of on the baseline, we're just kind of throwing jabs back and forth at each other throughout the game. And then they stop the game briefly. They honor Dalen. They're like, hey, by the way, like new record holder. Dalen looks just as surprised as anybody else because I'm sure she's not keeping track in her head throughout. And then, so it went announcement, cheer, inbound, and then I swear it probably took 2 or 3 seconds. Dalen just like completely smothers another shot from like this poor 5'3" girl from Bainbridge for the 11th. Baller. Outlet pass, jump up, easy lay-in, and I just look over at my buddy and he's just laughing his butt off, and I was laughing my butt off on the baseline, just like, you got to be kidding me, like it's comical. She finishes the game with 13, which also set a team record by herself. And so she
set the WIA record for a single game, right?
Yeah. Individual, and then as a team, WF West had 13 blocks. All 13 were Dalen. That is also a team record. And you could extend that to tournament-wide, too. So Dalen had 24 blocks, and WF West as a team had 25. Shout out Grace Simpson for getting the one that, took it over the top. It's like how the Gretzky brothers are the highest scoring duo, Wayne, the highest scoring duo.
And Wayne's brother has like maybe
7 points. Yeah.
7 goals.
Or when Kobe and Kwame Brown combined for 82 and Kwame Brown had 1. But yeah, we were joking about that on Media Row. Just a fun tournament. Linden and Ellensburg are insane. That was always going to be the final.
Yeah, that was I think it would have been surprising had that not been the final.
Yeah, I think Deer Park was a solid third. Prosser made a run in both the boys and girls side. I think Prosser ended up losing to Sela on the boys' side. I'm not sure, but
but how would you say WF West fared against Deer Park? I mean, I know they lost, but I think that was that game as close as the final score indicated?
Absolutely. If I remember correctly, it was kind of, back and forth first half, and then similar to the Archbishop game, it just wasn't as big of a run. Deer Park just kind of pulled away a little bit. And, once you go down 10-15 in a state tournament game, it's going to be hard to crawl back. But certainly nothing to hang their heads about. Like I said, I think Deer Park was clearly the third best team going into the tournament. They were the undefeated for a reason. And they did really well against Dalen defensively, as Archbishop Murphy did in both the regional and the 4th-6th game. So I think it was a clear cutoff between Linden and Ellensburg, and then Deer Park and Archbishop kind of in that next tier. But I think WFS firmly cemented itself in that third tier, and I think 6th was a pretty appropriate finish for them.
How was the emotions afterwards? As I know this is a senior-laden group of girls that have grinded through 4 FCO seasons and won 2 district titles, 3 FCO regular season titles, and now leave with 2 state trophies. I'm sure the scenes afterward, were as emotional as they could have been.
Yeah, I think it was mostly just appreciation. Karnofsky had a tie for the last game. I couldn't tell what it was until post-game, but his tie had, photos of all 4 of his seniors.
That was the same tie he wore for senior night. Yeah.
And I talked to Ellie Clinton, who got the start, and Amanda Bennett, who obviously has played all 4 years. And it was just, that was kind of the theme I took away from it, was just appreciative, glad they went out, with a trophy, and they feel like they put their best foot forward, and there's nothing wrong with that, even if ultimately, you don't win a state championship, only one team gets to. And there's a lot to be proud of for them over the last 4 years and this year specifically. And I think they did Shayla's proud.
Yeah, I agreed. I think we talked about in several podcasts of what would success be like for WFS, and I know you and I kind of went back and forth of quarterfinals, semis, what's the ceiling. The end goal was always just to leave with a trophy, and they never made it bigger than that. They never wanted to make it bigger than that, and for them to accomplish the goal, it is a fitting send off for that group. And next year is going to look very, very different. Yeah. I mean, there's not going to be a girl like Julia Dalen's going to walk through the gym next year. It's going to be a lot on Dylan Beck's shoulders and Riley Beebe and some of these younger girls like Izzy Teeter.
Maddie McManus, I'm sure she have a bigger role. She already kind of dug out a role for herself this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different looking WFS team.
I thought it was also cool that Karnofsky kind of let the seniors go out the way they wanted. I mean, in every final game of the season, especially one that's not very close in the final, couple minutes. I mean, it was a 15-point game, I think, against Murphy, but I was kind of joking with one of the NSP photographers, maybe not joking, but we were yeah, surely, in the next couple minutes, they're going to send Ellie Clinton in on the floor with Grace, Julia, and Amanda, and then at some point shortly after, I'm sure they'll have all 4 come out together, kind of one final time as you do in, a final basketball game of the season. Archbishop Murphy did it 30 seconds later. And it just kind of never happened. And Julia and Amanda and Grace were all out there as the final buzzer went off, and Ellie was actually on the bench. But I saw Karnofsky go up to Ellie in the final, couple minutes, and Ellie essentially, kind of shook her head. And I asked Kyle after, and I was like, hey, I'm assuming that was her call to not go in at the end. And she said, yeah, she wanted her friends to play it out together the way that they've been playing all year. And then I asked Amanda, and she was like, yeah, we wanted to go out. We wanted to play it out, regardless of the outcome, So they never had that final moment of, walking off the court to some fanfare, but that's what they wanted to do, and Karnofsky was cool with that. I thought that was a really, cool way to end it.
Yeah, very much agreed, so. This podcast is brought to you by Global Septic, providing septic service and portable sanitation to Thurston, Lewis, Mason, Cowlitz, and Grace Harbor County. If you're ever in need of a porta potty, they're going to be able to hook you up with a porta potty rental. They'll even rent you a sink with it. They provide septic pumping, septic inspection, septic riser installation, commercial septic pumping, grease trap services. When you got to go with Global.
Yeah, I would. I'm still. I got to write a letter or something. I need them to extend to Pierce County. We had a porta potty for the wedding back last summer, and I had to go with a different service provider. So
unfortunate.
Yeah,
Global. You heard the call.
Global, man. I want to. I don't know the next time we'll need a porta potty in Pierce County, but I'll write a letter to make sure I have the option next time.
Hey, you know what? You never know. You never know when you'll need it. Visit globalseptic.com or call them at 360-736-2167. Let's move to Spokane. that was as fun of a weekend as I've probably ever experienced in my time as a writer. Wednesday was chaos of 3 boys games, 2 girls games, 3 girls games, 2.
I think 3.
3. I'm losing track.
Because Adna was the only team to get a bye.
Yeah,
11 girls.
Yeah. So it was as chaotic as a day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But let's start with the championship game. Adna loses to Northwest Christian in overtime. 73-66, I believe, was the final. Just a heartbreaking game. I mean, they were up 7 with a minute and a half left. NWC gets a layup, and then 2 straight turnovers, 2 straight layups. It's all of a sudden a 1-point game, and then the 8-0 run is capped with a pair of free throws. And Adna has a shot to Carson Freeman hits a straight cold-blooded three-pointer to make it 60-58, and all they need is a stop. Northwest Christian scores. The heave is fallen short, and then Freeman fouls out in overtime, and that was pretty much it. Northwest Christian goes on to win. That was an emotional locker room exit. That was even more emotional than volleyball, in my opinion. And I know we were both there for volleyball, and it just felt like the magnitude of the moment was, and the feelings afterwards were a lot higher in this one.
Yeah, I don't mean this as a knock on volleyball, but this one felt more like Adna's to lose. Volleyball, I mean, Manson's just, there's no shame in losing. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Northwest Christian either. Obviously, they're state champs for a reason, but the volleyball game felt like a coin flip going in.
Agreed.
Whereas this one, it really felt like it was Adna's time, and especially, to have that lead, like you mentioned, late and just let it watch away. It almost reminds me of Mossy last year on the boys' side a little bit. Not in the same sense, because Mossy was kind of the Cinderella run that had to play Wednesday to even get through, and they were the 10, but they were up double digits. They were up double digits in the final 4 minutes of the game, and Welpin, it just goes on this insane run. But yeah, good thing we can't bet money, because I said the pod before.
You did say
rent on the Adna girls.
So have you told Lauren that you're homeless yet?
Yeah, that's a conversation that still needs to be had, but. Especially with a baby on the way, I should probably look at my priorities. But
instead of throwing your money at our local children.
Ridley, what did you think of your first Spokane experience?
I mean, it was similar to Yakima. Every day was really busy, but we had a few breaks.
Yakima was not very busy.
Well, with track it was.
Well, yeah.
Oh, track. I was just thinking basketball.
Yeah. Oh, no, not your basketball when I was there. Yeah, no, I would agree, though, the championship. I mean, I try not to get too invested because I want to capture, the elements of the whole game. But I was looking at you in the last minute and a half of the game, waiting to see you pull your phone out to get the celebration. And I was up ready to get photos of the celebration. So it was disheartening.
Yeah, I was what really I think leaves a sour taste in Adna's mouth is not only obviously not getting the stop at the end of regulation that's gonna haunt them a little bit, but when Freeman fouled out very early in overtime and Ridley got an excellent photo, I thought it was pretty questionable at watching it live, but Ridley got a really good photo, and you could tell that Carson leaned in, and it was the right call. That felt like the dagger, and it's not an indictment on Gabby Gard, McKenna Torrey. Danica Hallam had already fouled out prior to that. But Carson's just, she's that alpha. She'll go get you a bucket whenever you need it. And, everyone else plays their roles and played it all season long very effectively and to the best of their ability to even get to that point. It just felt like, man, that takes the wind out of your sails, and Adna could never recover. It's unfortunate that senior class in both volleyball and basketball are favorites, if not one of the favorites, all season long. They wear that, and they go through the playoffs, and they get to the state title, and it doesn't go their way. I think that's probably the most heartbreaking part of it.
And then this probably does matter in the grand scheme of things. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but like Freeman's going to have her succession track this spring.
Yeah.
She had success last year in spring. And the rest of the core plays softball together. Adna softball is always, I mean, it's 3-peat or bust for them most likely. I know we're going to touch on them in a little bit. And they're going to have their success, and they've had their success in the past. But I think kind of like you mentioned, volleyball and basketball specifically, this core together these last 2 years have just been so dominant for such long stretches. And they still have so much to be proud of, even making the title games in both this year.
And that's what Carson really...
To watch them both slip away is kind of tough.
That's what Carson said afterwards is like, it's still the highest finish that Adna girls basketball has ever had in school history. They're going to...
Same with the volleyball team, yeah.
Yeah, they left up, sad that they couldn't finish the deal, but grateful that they were even in that position and that they still leave with a trophy, and they still leave as, the best finishing team that Adna's had in those two sports. The team that Adna played in the state semifinals, Napavine, they ended up finishing third. They beat Reardon 59-47. That was a rematch from the opening round back in a week on March 1st. They played a week later, March 8th. Reardon won the first matchup by 17, and Napavine comes back, wins the second one by 12. Taylor Evander, she had one heck of a state tournament. Not only as being the main player responsible for defending the opponent's best player, but she was the main reason why they even won that game against Reardon. Cat was dealing with some foul trouble, and Evander really had to pull it together, or pull the Tigers together in that second quarter when Reardon was going on a run. A heck of a tournament by her. And looking back, I mean, do you think this was probably overachieving for Napavine?
I would say so. Especially, I mean, just thinking back to how much they lost, I think a regression would have been, natural and expected. I almost wonder, if you asked Shane Schutz back in November, if you thought, I mean, I'm sure I still expect them to compete for a state berth and a district title just because that's what they do, but to kind of run through the tournament like they did, and there's no shame in losing to Adna. I was pleasantly surprised by their performance, and I think a third-place finish this year, again, considering how much they lost from last year, it's clearly a successful season.
Yeah, and with how much they're going to bring back now, because they only lose one senior Jesse McCoy.
Yeah.
So you bring Kaut back, Evander back, Ava Ondong will be back, and
Nicole Valentine will be
Nicole
back.
Valentine, so you bring four starters.
Both phase.
Yeah, both phase. You bring four starters back.
Phase.
But 2B is going to be really good next year. I mean, Northwest Christian does not lose a lot. Reardon, their best player is a sophomore and a pure scorer. They'll be back. Brewster, I think, is pretty young too, so they'll be back. 2B is going to be pretty loaded again next year. But I don't think there's any reason why to think Napavine won't be one of the favorites.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, the other girls' team that was there, Rainier, lost in the round of 12, loser out 64-59 to 8-seeded Mapton. That was
a brutal draw.
It's not only a brutal draw, but the ending was brutal. Rainier was up double digits in the second half. Were completely handling the guard heavy pressure that Mapton brought. But that second half, Mapton went to the full court press. Rainier couldn't get it over the line. Struggled with the traps. Mapton made some clutch shots down the stretch, and that was, that's how it ended. But to go from the 1 seed to out, and obviously Brooklyn Swenson's injury ends up playing a larger factor than probably what we figured. I mean, losing her.
It's a shame that kind of what if cloud is always going to hang over what, the run this team. I mean, they won a district title, and they were the 1 seed. They easily could have met Adna in the state championship had things, gone differently, but that's why we play the games.
I mean, Northwest Christian goes from beating them in that opening round to winning a state title. That could have been Rainier. Difficult ending for difficult ending for the Mountaineers. That's a senior laden group too, with Angelica Askey, Swenson, Janess Blackburn, Bryn Beckman. So the girls for next year is going to be pretty wide open, at least in the C2BL. I mean, Onalaska and Napavine bring a lot back, but outside of that, and Mossy Rock brings 4 starters back. It's going to be a different looking C2BL next year with a lot of girls that are going to have to, teams are going to have to prove themselves. Yep. So be interesting to see. Boys side, 3 teams we're in the round of 12, and C2BL goes 0 for 3. Toledo loses to Okanagan in the early game pretty handily, double digits. They were up early in the first quarter, struggled to deal with the size of Okanagan, and they give up, I think, a 17-0 run in the second quarter, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Adna loses to Liberty Bell 61-41. I think that one was the most surprising of the 3.
Yeah.
Liberty Bell, I mean, they're a blue-collar team that Luke Salmi said that if they were to win the turnover battle, they were going to win that game, and they did not win the turnover battle. The full-court press that Liberty Bell brought, that was way too much for Adna to handle. So they lose by 20. And then Napavine in the 9-8 game against Northwest Christian loses 80-65. I said after I saw Northwest Christian be competitive with Columbia Burbank in the opening round, I'm like, Napavine's going to have to play probably an A-plus game to win, and maybe that might not even be enough. And Denault played well. Landrum played well, but Northwest Christian is just really good. So,
yeah, I think Josh and I were kind of joking about this, and I know I joked about this with you guys before you left, that D4 had so much success 2 tournaments ago, and that's usually not the case, so it kind of reverberated back to, I don't know if that's the right word, but it kind of bounced back to the mean a little bit this year. And we had good teams, District 4 as a whole, but the East side this year was just crazy. I mean, Burbank went on to win it all, obviously.
I think it's fair to say now, looking back, that the D4 was probably overseeded with 6, 7, and 8. And I think the East side, Okanagan finishes 6th in their league, but you look at who's in their league, and it's the top 4 teams.
Yep.
It's a loaded league out there, and they were definitely underseeded. Adna was probably seeded correctly. I'd say 7 was probably right, but it's still, that's still a younger Adna team than last year's. Yeah. And I felt Napavine was probably seeded right at 9, but yeah, it's just when you look at it now, step back, maybe they were overseeded a little bit, but most of these, I mean, Napavine losing Denault's going to hurt, but Toledo brings everyone back. Adna brings everyone back except Gavin Mueller. You could see D4 kind of go back to 2023 maybe, or 2023 performances with how much is brought back potentially. Yeah, that was Spokane. Outside of the basketball, we had a lot
did
of
you guys
fun.
try soup?
We did.
What did we tried the soup?
We tried
Kitchen
Soulful Soups.
Soulful Soups, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
What type of soup did you get? Come on.
Tomato, classic.
Oh. All
Hard to
right.
go
Zach,
wrong.
did you have some fun, or did you
I got
do something basic?
what did I get? It was like a spicy soup. I can't remember what it was called. Rube
Mixing it up a little bit.
Rube got the same thing I did. It was fine.
It was got a bowl.
It's like
if I'm
spicy
correct,
taco.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Sure.
Spicy taco. Yeah, it was pretty good.
What other restaurants did we try while we were out there?
Chili's.
Oh, is there Chili's out there? Hell yeah.
There's the Chili's right within walking distance from our
Let's
hotel.
go.
That was the first time Rube had ever had Chili's.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, there's only one in this state.
yeah, I don't know if there's any in Oregon either.
Have you ever had
Especially
Chili's?
on the west side. Yeah, I was in Chicago O'Hare Airport.
Yeah,
Chili's. Hung
yeah.
out there during delays before. Watched the lightning rod, take on the lightning. I did hit the Bob's Burgers in Yakima. There's a bar there called the Sports Center that I wanted to try, but I wasn't feeling great.
Did you go to Miners?
The schedule didn't work out. I did go to Miners. There's a Krispy Kreme across from Miners that I forgot was there. I hit that up as well.
At the same time?
No, I hit up Krispy Kreme on the way home. I left the arena, went to Krispy Kreme, and then got on the road for 3 hours. WF West was done by 11:30 on Saturday, and I didn't hang around for the title games. So
It was Yeah, we tried the soulful soups. We also tried this this cheesesteak burger place called, what was it, Brucci's?
Oh.
I can't remember what was the title. Pretty underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie.
No Red Robin trips?
No, we did not go to Red Robin. I told you. I said on the podcast before that we were going to go less times to Red Robin than you guys did the year before, and that ended up being right. But also,
just saying, we had a great time at Red Robin.
Oh, I'm sure you guys did. But also, it's like the timing never worked out if we even wanted to go to Red Robin because we all had we had every single day before up until the championship game. We had a 9:00 game, which is nuts. Literally. That semifinal day, we were just walking around, shooting the shit around Spokane because all we had was a 9:00 game.
Yeah. But the arena food was pretty good, actually.
It was fine.
I mean, for an arena,
it
was pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just really hungry from the long days, but yeah.
Until we found
it's like 8 hours of sensory like no sunlight in that arena, and you're just like, oh, hot dog, $9 hot dog, yes please.
Yeah.
Overpriced hot dog, overpriced burger, absolutely. Yeah, it was a fun trip to Spokane. I think it's a good venue for state basketball.
It's easily the best one. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, it was a fun trip. This podcast is brought to you by Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery. As I'm about to pull up the website, let's see how much we can save on a Serta iComfort mattress. They always have deals.
While you'll do that, I'm sure everyone will be pleased to know that I got 0 games perfect before my bracket was busted. I lost on the first game of the day. So welcome back to March Madness.
Because last year you were like perfect for like the most of
7 for 7 on day one, and that was probably the best I'll ever do.
Yeah, you were rolling last year
early, and then Nevada choked against Dayton, but. Gonzaga won today. BYU won. We got Wofford and Tennessee right now. I was telling Zach I was thinking about going up. Climate Pledge is hosting some games tomorrow. I'm not sure. We'll see how the weather, responds. We'll get into that, I'm sure, here shortly after the Elam Zed. I guess I'll let you finish that.
I can't even find where the deals are. Either way, they always have great savings at Elam's Home Furnishing and Mattress Gallery. You can visit their showroom at 1530 South Gold Street in Centralia. Or you can visit them online at elamshf.com. Well, we are into the spring sports season.
Allegedly.
I mean, the current weather says otherwise. All the games, we're recording this on a Thursday, and all our baseball and softball games have been rained out.
Two of our 3 tennises have also been rained out.
I'm going to bet all
third.
Yeah, I'm going to bet all 3 of the tennises were also rained out. So, Dylan, so far, what have you seen team-wise this spring, and what are some early feelings you have about spring sports? Let's start with.
Just gonna bullet point some stuff that stuck out to me. Adna and Appevine baseball still very good. They'll still be competing for a league title. I haven't seen Tootle yet. I know they lost a bit. Black Hills softball and Centralia softball, I think, could both have better seasons this year. I mean, Black Hills didn't have a terrible season last year. I know Centralia is trying to get back to state for the first time since 23.
Yeah, they went 2 years ago.
Yeah,
2
but they went 2 and out. So I talked to David Orr. They have a transfer from California. Her real name is Madeline, but she goes by Mad Dog, and her last name is Rothdeutsch, which is just S-tier name. She's already hit at least 1 home run, maybe 2. She's got a bunch of RBIs here in the early part of the year. They're able to play on turf when the dirt's not suitable at Fort Borse, so they've been able to get a couple games in. They also have Maddie Mounts, who transferred in from Black Hills. Her family moved. I haven't seen WF West softball yet. I know that they've had somewhat of a tough early league schedule. They've won a couple. They lost to Camas, but
they're 3-1 right now in the non-league, and so far this season. But yeah, the Camas game was definitely the eyesore, losing 16-0. But they have responded well with victory over Yelm and then Kelso, which qualified for the 3A state tournament last year. WF West is going to be good again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Taylor Tobin and other pitcher Monroe Dalrymple. Yep. That's going to be as good of a 1-2 punch as you'll see in the EVCO. Now, great, it's not like the high end ace like Ella Ferguson from Tumwater or Lily Camp from Aberdeen, but Tobin went toe-to-toe with both of them, and in at least a couple instances has prevailed in both matchups. So, WF West will still be really good. It'll be interesting to see what they do offensively from kind of some unknown names. Addie Froschauer was one of the best hitters on the team last year. Evelyn Myers provided, good pop in the middle of the order, but there's going to be some names you're probably going to hear about later. Carly Coleman is a freshman. She's hitting in the cleanup spot. They had a freshman that made her varsity debut a couple days ago. Laya Middleton, I believe. Sorry to Miss Middleton if I'm butchering that name. She's had a couple good games already. And yeah, I think WF West is going to still be really good. Tumwater and Aberdeen are probably Tumwater, especially with Ferguson and most everyone back from their state runner-up finish last year, they're going to be, heavy favorites as well. I've seen Tumwater boys soccer. They'll be fine. I think they're still going to be
Speaking of boys soccer, Centralia boys soccer is off to a great start. They
3-0.
lost Leicester 3-1 now. They lost
3-1,
yesterday 1-0 to Lindbergh, but they conceded in like the second minute, and then it was pretty even from there. They just never found an equalizer. But yeah, Noel Vasquez, he's been with the team as a assistant coach and head coach for about 7 years. He said they've never started 3-0. He wasn't sure exactly when their last 3-0 start was. But yeah, they made districts last year for the first time in 6 years, I think.
They played Tumwater in a winner to state game.
Yeah, barely lost that one. I think that's a team that could go a lot farther than maybe some people are thinking this year. I'm sure the goal is to get back to state.
Noel told me that he always views year 3 as kind of the year to where everything kind of comes together. Year 1, you're trying to set a culture. Year 2, you're trying to just build off that. And year 3 is like, when pieces are starting to be set in stone. So he's viewing this year as a not a make or break, but definitely a year where they could definitely show up. Yeah, there's definitely expectations here. And when you've got one of the best goalkeepers in the area in
Alejandro Arevalo.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome name.
Wonderful name. Yeah. And especially when the weather gets warmer and Shorts Alejandro comes out.
I forgot about that, yeah.
It's could be different.
Plus 10 to all attributes when he gets to wear shorts.
But
yeah.
Softball, Adna,
they haven't played yet.
I know, that's the thing.
They've been like 4 rainouts. Bruce Pockington was like, I kind of feel behind. And I was like, you're a little behind, but you're not that far behind because a lot of teams have only gotten 1 or 2 games in, in the week and a half plus that we've been going. They got rained out again today. They were supposed to play at Napavine in a non-league game. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of games here pretty rapid fire once the sun starts to come out in April and May.
It's going to make for a lot of these, if these games get rescheduled, it's going to make for a busy April. And
double headers.
May. Yeah. C2BL softball, I feel like it's, Adna, Adna, Toledo, Napavine, probably.
And then PWV will probably. I don't know much about the other P2BL teams, but I'm sure PWV is always in the mix there for a league title, and they'll snag a state spot, I'm sure, because they always seem to. And they only lost. I know they lost Lauren Emery. I feel like they lost a second one whose name I'm not remembering, unfortunately.
Because Phelps is back.
I apologize to whoever I missed, but they only lost a couple kids from last year, and that team took Adna to the brink in a quarterfinal last year. That was the best game of the state tournament.
Yeah,
that was the state title game.
Yeah,
in a quarterfinal because PL ran through everybody to win third after, and Adna destroyed everybody afterwards to win the title. Like, those were clearly the 2 best teams, and they met in a quarter because PL, had some losses that they probably shouldn't have from earlier in the year. It would not shock me if we find them in Yakima again or competing for a district title in Centralia come, the first, second week of May.
Yeah.
Or whenever it is. So, I'm excited.
EVCO, baseball, EVCO, WF West Tumwater.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be determining the league. Seems like it always does. It's going to be very interesting to see how both those teams are going to respond after losing in the state quarterfinals last year. Tumwater more heartbreaking fashion to top seed at Enumclaw. and then WF West getting a third meeting with Columbia River just
who went on to win state.
Yeah, but it was like a week after they played for a district title, like just a bad, just an unfortunate seeding to have that happen. So I'm very curious to see how both those teams are going to respond this year.
Yeah, we know Bellingham's the expectation for both of those teams. Those are teams that Tumwater went back-to-back. WF West has gotten top 3 in like 3 or 4 of the last 7 years. Like, that's the expectation for both of those teams. I asked Jesse Elam, I was like, I'm sure that's the expectation this year. Or like something about, is that the goal for this team? And he's like, our goal is to win on Friday. And I was like, all right.
Keep it simple, Jesse.
Like, fair enough. As a team, you don't want to look ahead, but I'm sure in the back of their minds, that's, when you write out, Kyle Karnofsky always talked about it at the beginning of the year. We wrote out our list of goals, and you can't get to the final few goals without, you got to go in order. Yeah. I'm sure that's the mindset Jesse is taking right now. It's like, we got to play a game first. Let's go. And they haven't played a game yet either. Spoiler alert. They got a turf field, and they got rained out because Ellensburg couldn't make it over the pass on Saturday. But anyways, goal one is start off strong. They're in a tournament down in Richfield with a lot of top teams, Columbia River, Othello, Anacortes, a lot of top contending teams. I think Linden's there too. Get through that, get on a roll going into league play, and then try and win your league and see what happens from there. But it's just like Tenino. I'm sure the expectation and the goal is to get back there ultimately.
Because even though you lose Kellen Knox, who's now at Oregon, like most of that team is back.
Oregon, last I saw, yeah.
Yeah, he is doing well at Oregon. But most of that team is back. Like Jack Burkhardt now steps into that ace role.
Congrats to Burkhardt. He just committed to Yakima Valley.
For baseball,
For baseball, so
he took a visit to Washington State for football in the fall, but I think maybe the coaching change halted anything with that. And now Gagne is going to pitch more. He's still going to catch and he's going to pitch because Austin Gagne is a madman and will do whatever it takes to win.
He was at our all-area basketball shoot today, and he comes up.
Spoiler alert!
It's not a full black eye. Oh yeah, the 1A unanimous 1A Evergreen MVP. Whoa! If there was any doubt about that, he walks in. It wasn't a full black eye, but he had a mark on it, and I was like, "You good?" He's like, "Yeah, I got hit with a baseball," and I was like, "All right, fair enough."
Yeah, kid's a gamer.
Yeah.
Tonight was gonna be really good. I think Rochester has a chance to be decent. It's gonna be a lot of question marks with them.
Down in 1A, yeah.
Because a lot of their pitching is gone. But I think Rochester has a chance to potentially be really good down in the 1As.
Yeah, they almost made state at 2A last year. It's just like, softball did end up making state, but that was something we talked about from the end of spring season last year. Was like, if they're having this much success, Rochester baseball didn't make state, but they got close. They made districts. If they're having this much success in the 2As, like, not to say the 1A is that much worse, especially when you got teams like, Monty, and now they got to face Tenino a couple times a year, but I think they could definitely compete for a state spot for sure.
C2BL, who's a team we probably aren't going to think about right now, but maybe come districts, we're going to be like, we should, maybe early this season we could have paid a little more attention to them.
I'm kind of got my eye on Rainier a bit. They had I was reading Rube's preview that he wrote before one of his last articles with the MVN. They had a really young outfield last year, and the youth showed at times just some growing pains. One of those years, it happens. Every team's at a different stage. All those guys have year experience under their belt. They have more depth in the infield. They have more depth in the outfield even too. I think Rube that was kind of the highlight of the article, was how many more players they have compared to this year, and how many more of those guys have experience compared to last year. I don't know if they could, get into that upper tier with the Adden and Appevine and Toodles of the world, but I certainly think that they can be in that. They were in that middle tier last year, even just kind of going through those growing pains. So I certainly think they could win more games this year. And when they get to districts, it wouldn't shock me if they were kind of one of those teams where we're talking about going into the final day. Well, if they win a game or two, they could certainly steal a state spot.
I've kind of got my eye on Mossy Rock, not only because Easton Cobb is back, Mason Adder also back. Wild Greason pitched very well against Winlock yesterday, 5 innings, 8 strikeouts. Pitching wins you games, and if they can manage a postseason pitching count of those 3, as long as they can string together some hits and tack on a good run support, I think Mossy Rock could be a team that could make a run in districts and make a run to finish top half in the league in their first year back up in the C2BL and in this since the last cycle.
Yeah. And then also shout out Oakville softball. They got a team this year. ran into Marissa Lucero, the softball coach at Black Hills yesterday. I just kind of overheard her talking with John Holman, who was with you guys in Spokane, and she mentioned, going to Monty or Hoquiam, and they had a game out there yesterday that got rained out, and I was like, "Are you Marissa?" And she was like, "Yeah." But anyways, they got a team. She's coaching out there. She was also the volleyball coach in the fall. They start tomorrow, Friday, I believe. So,
shout out also Oakville baseball having a 38-1 victory. That's
1B baseball, baby.
Our favorite.
They beat Merriam Knight in basketball a couple years ago, 107-4. I know there was a pretty fun pod about that with Josh and Alec and AVT too. So 1Bs. 1Bs.
This podcast is brought to you by AmeriCool Heating and Cooling. If you're ever too hot or too cold, give our friends at AmeriCool Heating and Cooling a call. Your comfort is their business. Full service HVAC installation, service and repair, 100% satisfaction guarantee in everything they do. Call their 24/7 emergency service line at 360-948-2832. Rest of the spring sports track, I think we're gonna probably learn a lot about a lot of teams starting this weekend. So some of these early season league meets, weekend meets.
I know Rainier has an icebreaker this weekend that Rube is going to with a bunch of local teams, a lot of the B schools.
Yeah. Tumwater girls will be really good again.
Yeah.
Most of their sprinters are back. Ava Jones, Reese Harryford. That 4x2 relay. I think all four, if not three of the four girls from that quartet are back. Rainier girls are going to be good again. Acacia Murphy back from the high jump. Ella Marvin pole vaults, and then you lose Haley Hansen as in the two throws, but there's so much depth in the running. That in the running events and the field events that I think Rainier girls are going to be fine. It's going to be a good. I think it's going to be a good track season for the area. I'm looking forward to getting out to as many meets as possibly can. Rains and could have impending factors in that too.
Yeah. Yep. March in Washington. Not much you can do about it, unfortunately, but. Yeah. It'll clear up here in the next few weeks, hopefully, and we'll get out there.
I think it's going to be – give me a bold prediction for this spring.
I have a mean one that I'm not going to say.
No, don't say that.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying
exactly.
Let me think of a different one real quick. It's not mean. It's a team finishing second at state. Well, it's not that mean. Mean is not the right word, but WFS placed at softball last year? I don't think they did.
No, they finished. They were two wins away from finishing top four.
I'll put my faith in Taylor Tobin. I don't even know if it's that bold to say that they'll trophy this year at state in softball.
I don't think it's that.
I don't even think that's that bold. Now I think about it even more.
No, I think because I think that there is I think the East Side or North Kitsap, the last year's defending state champs, I think they bring a lot back. Cedar Woodley, the team that beat Tumwater in the state title game last year, I think most of their girls were juniors, so I think most of them are going to be back. It's not crazy, it's not outlandish, but I think it could happen. I'm going to go with
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when we're put on the spot. I'm not sure. I struggle thinking of stuff off rip like this.
Okay, I'll go with an individual. I'll go with an individual hot take. Napavine's Cal Bullock will pitch in a state title game. So I think Napavine baseball gets to the 2B state title game,
which is now in Lakewood.
It is in Lakewood. It's at Pierce College instead of Ephrata.
Proud alum. Pierce College Raider over here.
Didn't you go there for a year, or did you go for a full 2 years?
I got my associates out from there before I went to Arizona. So
new turf field out there.
Yeah.
I saw pictures of it. It looks I saw pretty
Pierce
nice.
College listed, and my first thought was like, these poor kids. Why on earth would Pierce be the host? But then I saw they got a new turf, new facilities.
New complex.
So it is worthy now of hosting. But when I first saw that, I think I texted you. I was like, no shot that is hosting. But it should be very nice with all the turf. No matter the weather, they'll be able to get it in.
And it's a lot closer for at least our area teams.
Yeah,
from instead of Ephrata, which is even farther out east than Yakima.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, good pod. We'll try and get these out as, the spring sports season. It's, early games.
We got to get some more games in to talk about.
Yeah. So once we get some more games in, we'll come back with another episode. So pray for good weather. Yeah. Pray for no more rainouts.
Make East State to the Final Four. Let's do it.
Go Iowa State. All right. Talk to you guys soon.